Hello and welcome everybody. My name is Allison Henline and I am the Education and Outreach Manager here at SHS, or the Shaker Historical Society, located right here in Shaker Heights, Ohio. I wanted to remind everybody that we are multi-streaming this Educators Corner. We multi-stream all of our Educators Corners to both our Instagram and to our Facebook Live pages, so you can catch us a multitude of places. And these are both being recorded and will be available, excuse me, they'll both be available on our YouTube page after the fact, so you can catch these recorded things afterwards as well, and we will do our best to contact you if you have any questions. So, as you may or may not be aware, today is March 17th, 2021. It is St. Patrick's Day. It is commonly a celebrated holiday to celebrate Irish heritage, to celebrate Irish culture, and more importantly, the man that it is named after, St. Patrick, who there's a lot of different lore and information about it. So, if you're interested in learning anything more about that, there is a lot of information out there already about the St. Patrick. But today we're going to be taking it in a little bit of a different direction. So, as we discussed on our last Educators Corner, we talked about Valentine's Day cards and greeting cards. Today we're going to be talking about, since it's St. Patrick's Day, a little bit lesser known St. Patrick, as St. Patrick Isle. St. Patrick's Isle is actually off of the Isle of Man in the Irish Sea. And we're going to be discussing something that I personally am very interested and passionate about: the Manx settlers that settled the area known as Warrensville, now sections of Shaker Heights and surrounding communities. So, a little bit of a brief history about St. Patrick's Isle. And I've taken this from a couple of different sources. I will be posting all of my sources into the comments or not the comments, the description after the fact. So, if you're interested in learning anything more about this, I'm going to be giving a little bit of a brief overview. So, St. Patrick's Isle history. St. Patrick's Isle is one of the smallest islands in the Irish Sea, and yet one of the most historic, with an extraordinary history stretching back over 8,000 years. It has been the home of princesses, bishops, monks, and Vikings, peasants, and fishermen. By the time of the Dark Ages and the unrest throughout Europe, the isolation of St. Patrick's Isle made it an ideal place for safety, for storing grains in time of siege, and for establishing the king's court. It was here, tradition tells us, that St. Patrick stepped ashore to bring Christianity to the Isle of Man. And people have differing ideas about it, but some say it was 444. So 444 was when St. Patrick stepped ashore, St. Patrick's Isle, which is his namesake, I suppose. And a monastery and early churches there were established. This wealth attracted the Vikings, who had started to plunder the Irish sea coast by the 10th century, and by the 11th century, they had built a fort on the island under the intriguingly named King Magnus Barelegs. Sorry, I almost read that as a Barelegus. It's Barelegs. So King Magnus Barelegs, a very interesting name. After the Viking period, the Isle of Man was fought over by Scottish and English powers, and eventually it came under English rule at the beginning of the 14th century. It was gifted to certain Sir John Stanley by King Henry VI. From this time on, St. Patrick's Isle was used both by the House, it flipped on the other side, my bad, both by the Church of the Lords of Man, though not without frequent arguments as to who was really in control. Eventually, the castle was abandoned in the 18th century when the garrison was moved out to one of the other island towns. Soon afterwards, the lead was stripped from the cathedral roof and the stained glass was removed. Soon afterwards, gosh, I can't read today. I'm so sorry about that, guys. Gradually, the building deteriorated until today. All we see is a picturesque ruin, albeit on a dramatic sea-swept location. The soft pink sandstone has been scoured by centuries of wind racing in off the Irish Sea, and the pillars and arches off the buildings were weathered into strange shapes. So this still remains off of the coast of the Isle of Man, and is a very picturesque tourist destination. They contribute a lot of their economy to being a tourist destination in the Isle of Man. And it's literally in between the island of the UK, so off the shore of the UK, the proper huge chunk, and then right in between the UK and Ireland. So, how does this connect to the Shaker Historical Society? Why did I read you guys, albeit not very wellly read, But why did I read that to you guys? Well, Warrensville, which is sections of Shaker Heights and surrounding communities, were settled in part by Manx settlers. So people from the Isle of Man are called Manx, which is Manx. It took me a long time to figure out how to say that and what the proper pronunciation of it is, but it is Manx. I kept saying minx for whatever reason. Minx is a type of weasel situation. So I'm going to be talking a little bit about a couple of the earlier settlers that came here that we have some information on here at the museum. Of course, this is not by all means, any means, a complete history of all Manx settlers. These are just a couple of snapshots of different people that we chose to talk about today. So here we have a picture from our archive, from a scrapbook. This is a picture of John Corlett, who his description underneath says purchased land in Warrensville, Ohio in 1839 to 1840. He lived until his death on the Prospect near to Rose Building. He died in 1911 at age 96 years old. So this is a photograph of John Corlett, one of the first settlers, among the first Manx settlers to this area. And his legacy, the Corletts are actually a very prominent family or prominent group of Manx settlers in the area, and their legacy kind of lives on through their grandchildren that have stayed in this area. We have a lot of information about Corletts, especially Edward Corlett, but I believe John was one of the first ones that purchased land, and it continued to purchase lands from the Shakers as well. So now I'm going to read a little bit about John Sale. So I do have another photo here, but I'm going to save it for when I get to the section here. This kind of ties into anybody that is interested about century homes or interested in homes in general and their history in the area. So at 22300 Fairmount Boulevard, there stands an old farmhouse that, according to county records, was built in 1877. So a little bit after John Corlett was already established here and living. As such, it is among the oldest houses in Shaker Heights. While a question exists as to whether it was built by Jacob Strong, Henry Corlett, see the name Corlett, or John Sale, Cleveland Historical Society believes, based on county tax and deed records, county maps, and other documents, that it was likely built by John Sale, who was in the area from 1826 to 1894. Sale was an immigrant from the Isle of Man who in 1871 purchased 68.5-acre parcel of land in Lot 27 of Warrensville Township, upon which the house was built just 6 years later. So Sale was one of thousands of immigrants from the Isle of Man who came to northeastern Ohio in the early 19th century. Records are spotty regarding the exact date of John Sale's arrival in the United States, but at the time of the 1860 U.S. federal census, he was living on the near east side of Cleveland in Old Ward 6 and employed as a butcher. So I've also done a lot of research on early immigrants to Northeast Ohio, although mine is not necessarily about the Cleveland area. I focused more on the Youngstown area. But there are a lot of interesting records and ways that you can find out this information if you're interested in, learning a little bit more about your family genealogy and, would like to know if you have any immigrants or anybody in your family that might have immigrated from Europe. There are tons of excellent free resources online available to you through Castle Garden, and then through obviously Ellis Island. And if anybody is at all interested in that, we're going to be offering some genealogy workshops coming up at the museum. So if you are at all interested in those, keep an eye out on our website and on our Facebook and Instagram pages. We will be offering those again, hopefully over the summer. But back to what we were talking about with John Sale. So he's one of thousands of immigrants that came to this area. So not necessarily, what we now know as Warrensville, Shaker Heights, but to, the east side of Cleveland area. And he's one of thousands that come here. And there's several different reasons why they immigrated here. A lot of our records say that there was a potato famine, not the potato famine as we know it today. There were several famines actually that impacted a lot of people in, Ireland, the UK, and in the Isle of Man and every island in between. There were several tragic famines that forced people out, but also the prospects of starting a new life and new economic development brought in by industrialization, the early industrialization period, was a very attractive offer to a lot of these people looking for different lifestyles, looking for a different place that they could call their home. So as we get back to John Sale and his prolific history here, he was one of thousands, as I had mentioned. His oldest child, before we get to his children, let's talk about his wife. So residing with him were his wife, Mary, an immigrant from Ireland, whom he married in Cleveland in about 1858. So this is still John Sale and his wife, Mary. and his 3 children. His oldest child was from a first marriage and had been born on the Isle of Man in 1848. Therefore, John Sale likely immigrated to the United States sometimes between 1848 and 1858. So again, there's a lot of guesswork that you have to do, and to deduce further, there has to be a lot of international travel, perhaps, and census data, and a lot of those records are currently being digitized, but are not completely digitized yet. So it does take a little bit of sleuthing to figure out genealogical history, which we'll talk about in a future workshop. So, like many of his fellow Manx men, Sale eventually purchased land and became a farmer in what was northeastern section of Warrensville Township, and what is today the northeast section of the city of Shaker Heights. The Sale family farmed their 68.5 acres south of North Woodland Road, today known as Fairmount Boulevard, for approximately 50 years from the 1870s until the 1920s. In 1927, John Sale's son John E, his middle initial is E, not Johnny, sold approximately 67 acres of the family farm to the Van Sweringen Company, which developed it into Van Sweringen Subdivision number 28, located south of the Fairmount Boulevard between South Belvoir Boulevard and Green Road. So again, I'm still learning my way around this city, so I'm not familiar exactly where those locations are, but I have a pretty good idea of where those are. So South Belvoir Boulevard and Green Road. I think I know where those are. I drive home going to Green Road, so I think I can kind of picture where that is. John E. Sal and his wife continued to live in the old farmhouse at 22300 Fairmount Boulevard on the 1.5 acres of land that they retained until their deaths in 1937. So the house at 22300 Fairmount Boulevard was awarded a Century Home plaque by the Shaker Historical Society and designated a Shaker Heights landmark in 1976. The house is notable for its random width flooring and beautifully carved door frames and woodwork. So a little bit about Sal, his horse and shoer shop, which is actually on display in our virtual, we have a virtual exhibit that it was put together by our junior board member, Hazel Smith. She did a stellar job with this, and if you wanted to see the image, a better quality image than the one I printed out and showed you today, this is an original photo of John Sale's horse shop, I believe. Horse, shoer, and jobber. They called them jobbers. I think that just meant like general laborers, what we would consider general laborers today. But if you're interested in seeing any more of our Shaker's Attic exhibit, it is still live. It is still virtually accessible, even though we are physically closed. It is virtually accessible on our website. So if you're interested in looking at that, you can just visit shakerhistory.org and you can find the link for Hazel's amazing exhibit. Also, I did mention a couple of different things while we were talking about this, so I'm going to do a couple of different plugs now. And if you guys have any questions about anything that I had talked about, please feel free to post them in the comments, and I will read them after I'm done reading my little spiel here. So I did talk a little bit about the history making homes, right? So John Sale's property, and then his son John E. Sale, and then his predecessors own 22300 Fairmount Boulevard, which is a century home and has a plaque and has had a plaque since 1976. If you're interested in getting your century home a lovely brass plaque, you can find information on getting or obtaining a century home brass plaque on our website. It is under Century Home, so you just go to our support us, and I believe it's under Century Home. If you can't find it, you can feel free to email us at shakerhistory@shakerhistory.org. I don't know when we are putting in the orders for those, but if you are interested in doing that, please feel free to find more information online, and we will be happy to add you to the list. Also, the History Making Homes Tour. So we offer a free self-guided tour of the history making homes in Shaker Heights. It's a walking tour. It can be a bike tour, whichever you prefer. And that is available also on our website, shakerhistory.org. So if you're interested in learning any more about any other history making homes, I believe there's a list of 10, maybe 8 or 10 homes. There might be less, there might be more. I know we are going to be rotating those out this year, so if you wanted to catch last year's history making home, I believe you have a couple of months to view the previous year before we change it out for the new year. So if you're interested in that, I implore you to take advantage of that. It is free, it is self-guided, and you can read at your own leisure. You can skip things ahead, or you can make it a multi-day tour if you wanted to walk it over a couple of different days. We're also going to be offering a History Making Homes Bike Shaker Tour. So Bike Shaker is going to be starting back up, I believe, in May, and we're going to be offering some once monthly Bike Shaker tours, which will be guided tours, socially distanced, of course. So if you are interested in joining one of those Bike Shaker tours, more information will be available shortly, and they will be taking place. I believe our first one is in May, and then they will be going, I think, through August. But double check me on that one. But you can find all that information on our website, shakerhistory.org/bike shaker. And if I already mentioned the Century Home plaque, but as always, if you would like to support the Shaker Historical Society, we are always offering memberships, volunteers, opportunities, and a selection of gift shop goods that are available in our online gift shop. So if you're interested in supporting us in any of those ways, feel free to do so. All of that information can also be found on our website and on our Facebook page. So that is kind of all I have for you guys today. It was a little bit more of a lunchtime quick bite history, but I hope that you enjoyed it, and I hope that if you didn't learn something, you could take something away from this. Again, if you have any questions, I'm going to kind of close it out now because I don't see any questions on any of our across our Facebook or Instagram. But it's been lovely sharing this with you today, and I hope, at least in Shaker Heights, Ohio, it is a beautiful sunshiny day out today. So I hope that you get to take advantage of a little bit of the sunshine and fresh air and enjoy the rest of your St. Patrick's Day or St. Paddy's or Paddy's Day, however you'd like to say it. But if you have any questions about anything that I spoke about today or would like any more information on research or workshops or anything else that's available, you can contact me at education@shakerhistory.org, and I will put that in the link below as well. So thank you again, and have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye, everyone.